At this point in the countdown, everything is going along just the way it should, with no significant problems being worked by the launch team. The astronauts are awake and will be sitting down at the breakfast table within the next several minutes. At T-minus 3 hours and holding, this is shuttle launch control. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 3 hours and holding. See the astronauts at the breakfast table for this morning's launch attempt. There's mission specialist Jan Davis and her husband, payload commander Mark Lee. Here is shuttle pilot Kurt Brown and this morning's STS-47 commander Hoot Gibson. There's mission specialist and flight engineer Jay Apt, mission specialist Mae Jameson, and the payload specialist Dr. Mamoru Mori of Japan. Half of the crew were awakened at about 4:58 this morning, and the other 3 were awakened at 5:28 in preparation for this morning's launch attempt. Sitting in the middle of the table is a traditional cake made for every launch team, and it has the emblem STS-47 crew patch. This is the STS-47 crew patch, which was designed by the astronauts. You can see the oval-shaped logo is surrounded by the names of the 7 astronauts. SLJ on the left side stands for Space Lab Japan, with the Japanese letters on the right meaning Fuwato, or weightlessness in Japanese. The shuttle orbiter is flanked by the flags of the United States on its starboard side and the flag of Japan on the port side. And you can see that the orbiter is flying over the United States state of Alaska and the country of Japan. And this is indicative of the 57-degree or high inclination orbit that we'll be having over the 7-day flight. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 3 hours and holding. We're currently standing by to receive some video of the astronauts, the STS-47 crew, as they're donning their flight pressure suits in preparation for today's launch. Here's Commander Hoot Gibson. Gibson is going to be making his 4th trip in space today. A veteran of 3 previous flights, most recently the launch of Atlantis on STS-27 back in November of 1988. Here's Mission Specialist and Payload Commander Mark Lee. Lee will be making his 2nd trip in space today. He flew previously on STS-34. Here you see pilot Kurt Brown being assisted with the donning of his gloves. Brown will be making his 1st trip in space today. These orange day-glow outfits are essentially pressure suits that the astronauts wear during entry into Earth orbit and re-entry back here upon landing. Here's Japanese payload specialist Dr. Mamoru Mori. Dr. Mori will become the first professional Japanese astronaut to fly in space today, and he's very pleased to be going and gives us a thumbs up. Mori has been training to fly on the SLJ mission for about 7 years. Mission specialist and STS-47 flight engineer Jay Apt. Apt is checking out his communications on his helmet, and he'll be making his 2nd trip in space, having flown previously on STS-37 when the Compton Gamma Ray Observatory was deployed. Here you see Mae Jameson. Mae Jameson will be making her 1st trip in space today, and she's also very enthusiastic and ready to fly. Jameson is a medical doctor from Chicago. Here you see mission specialist Jan Davis. Davis will be making her 1st trip in space today. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 2 hours 55 minutes, and the STS-47 astronauts have just emerged from their suit-up room in the astronaut quarters. Commander Hoot Gibson and pilot Kurt Brown leading the way, and Japanese payload specialist Mamoru Mori and mission specialist Mae Jameson picking up the rear. Here they come from the operation and checkout building. Commander Hoot Gibson leading the way, followed by Kurt Brown, Jay Apt, Mark Lee and his wife Jan Davis, Mae Jameson, and Mamoru Mori. They've trained a long time for this mission, 7 years for Dr. Mori, 2 or more years for the rest of the crew, and they're ready to fly today. In the foreground is the Japanese payload specialist, Dr. Mamoru Mori. A native of Hokkaido, Japan, Dr. Mori will today become the first Japanese astronaut to fly aboard a United States space shuttle. He has spent the last 2 years at Houston's Johnson Space Center, training for the Spacelab J mission, and spent 5 years before that in Japan, preparing himself for the flight. Dr. Mori is married to the former Akiko Naka of Sapporo, Japan, and has 3 children.
If we could, we'd like to have a message at this time from the Vice President.
Copy, standby 1. OTC in today.
Go ahead.
Yes, Ship 844, perform clearing a close crew from FSS.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Vice President. It's a real honor to have you here with us today.
Well, we're delighted to be here. I'm here with Marilyn and 2 of our children, and on behalf of the President and all Americans, we just wish you and your crew good luck and Godspeed. We know it's going to be great.
Thank you, sir. Well, we very much appreciate your support, and we look forward to having a safe and successful 50th launch of the Space Shuttle by the world's greatest launch team, and we're very pleased to have you here today.
Well, thank you very much, and give a special hello to Mae Jameson. I was in Detroit several months ago and met with the principal of the Mae Jameson Academy. The principal is here, and we're all going to be watching the flight and the launch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. It's wonderful that you were able to visit the school, and I know that they had wonderful things to say about your visit.
Well, thank you very much. Good luck to all of you. I hear Marilyn standing here. She'd like to say a word, too. Commander?
Go ahead for the CDR.
Commander, she's on a different microphone, and they say that that one's not working right now, so we'll, again, wish you good luck and Godspeed.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We look forward to showing you a great launch today.
At T-minus 7 minutes and 30 seconds, we're now seeing the orbiter crew access arm retracting away from the orbiter Endeavour and being put in the launch-ready configuration. If an emergency were to occur, the arm could be re-extended back up to the orbiter in just 15 seconds. All systems are go at this point at T-minus 6 minutes, 52 seconds. Weather is ideal, the vehicle's in good shape, and we expect to see Endeavour off the ground in just under 7 minutes.
And PLT-OTC perform the APU pre-start.
PLT in work.
Orbiter test conductor Roger Gillette has just instructed Endeavour's pilot Kurt Brown to perform the auxiliary power unit pre-start procedure. T-minus 3 minutes, 55 seconds. A test of the orbiter's flight control systems is starting. The aero surfaces, such as the rudders, elevons, and speed brakes, are now being moved through a programmed test pattern to verify they are up and ready for launch. Aero surface checks are complete and reported to be in launch configuration. Also at this time, the 3 main engines are being gimbaled, meaning that they are going through a steering check and being positioned for launch. All systems remain go for launching Endeavour on America's 50th space shuttle flight in just under 3 minutes.
PLT-OTC, clear caution and warning memory, verify no unexpected errors.
PLT in work.
Retraction of the gaseous oxygen vent hood from atop the external tank is now in work.
OTC, PLT, caution warning memory is cleared, no unexpected messages.
I copy. And flight crew, close and lock your visors, initiate O2 flow. Good luck on your mission, and see you in 1 week.
Orbiter test conductor Roger Gillette instructing the crew to close their flight visors in preparation for this morning's liftoff of Endeavour. T-minus 17 seconds. We're coming up on a go for main engine start.
10. CLS is go for main engine start.
We have main engine start. 2, 1. Solid rocket ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of Endeavour on America's 50th space shuttle flight.
Houston now controlling.
Houston, Endeavour's with you in the roll.
Roger, roll Endeavour. Roll maneuvers complete aboard Endeavour. The orbiter's now in a heads down position on course for a 57 degree, 160 nautical mile orbit. Engines now throttling down, now at 67% as Endeavour prepares to pass through the area of maximum dynamic pressure.
Endeavour Houston, go at throttle up.
Roger, go at throttle up.
1 minute 20 seconds into the flight, Endeavour is now 7 miles from the launch site, altitude 11 nautical miles. Now traveling 2,400 feet per second, or about 1,700 miles per hour. The next event is burnout of the solid rocket boosters. That occurs at about 2 minutes.
Endeavour Houston, UHF comm check. How do you read?
Houston, Sid, we got you loud and clear on UHF.
Two minutes into the flight now, Endeavour is 21 miles away from the Kennedy Space Center. Solid rocket booster separation confirmed. Standing by for the first stage performance call.
Endeavour Houston, performance nominal.
Roger, copy, nominal performance.
Performance thus far in the mission has been as expected. Endeavour's now 50 miles away from the launch site at an altitude of 38 nautical miles, traveling 4,800 feet per second. or about 3,400 miles per hour. All three main engines are still performing well, as are the hydraulic and electrical systems aboard the orbiter.
Endeavour Houston, 2 engines, Zaragoza.
Copy, 2 engines, Zaragoza.
Endeavour can now reach the primary transatlantic abort site of Zaragoza, Spain, in the event of a single engine failure, but all three engines are still performing well at 104%. Endeavour's altitude is now 293,000 feet, 85 nautical miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center.
This is Mission Control. These are our live views of the crew starting to come into the Space Lab module.
And Endeavour Houston, we're with you now in Space Lab J.
Yeah, it's great to get back in here after training at this for a long time. We got Memoro probably blinding you a little bit with the camera, but taking a few pictures with the 16 millimeter.
Yeah, the crew of STS-48 would just like to thank you. That was quite a show you put on for our 1-year anniversary today.
This is Mission Control. The first person to enter the Space Lab module is our payload commander, Mark Lee, followed by our payload specialist, Dr. Maury. And Dr. Maury is using the 16 millimeter film camera to get some footage inside the Space Lab.
Endeavour Houston, you have a go for Space Lab activation.
Okay, copy, going for Space Lab act.
Jan Davis is working with the continuous heating furnace and working on the aluminum composite experiment. She's involved in the first sample installation of this experiment. Mae Jemison works with the gas bulb experiment, the activation and preparation.
And Space Lab Huntsville for May, we do have downlink and we do have an image and we can see the filament.
GF, go push button on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
And we copy May, thank you.
Space Lab operations in Huntsville. We're receiving a live video downlink from the Space Lab module looking at the gas evaporation facility.
Okay, May, we copy, and I was just talking to the PI about the last one. There was a little bit of concern that the cross wasn't exactly in front of the filament. I'm not sure if you can do anything about that, except just to kind of eyeball that bulb to make sure it's straight up and down.
Okay, I'll take a look at it again, but there's no way to really swivel or move anything.
That's affirmative, May. We understand.
Go on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
Copy.
Space Lab operations in Huntsville getting An excellent view and downlink video of the gas bulb with the filament inside the bulb. Evaporating.
Here's a 250, and we've got another 250 that has infrared film in it. This little number here is a 35 millimeter with a 300 millimeter lens on it. So we can get nice close-ups. We just put all this gear together on this shift, and burn and film. We had some nice passes today over northern Japan, over Hokkaido. We had a couple of good passes over the central part of Russia, and some nice passes over the Sahara. So we're planning to use that and a bunch of the other gear that we've got back here throughout the rest of the flight.
Yeah, Mark, we want to increase fish package number 2, EEG number 2, 0.5 to 2.5.
And in this view, we can see Mission Specialist Mark Lee at the control systems.
Okay, number 2 is set at 2.5.
Making those requested adjustments to the amplification device for the brainwave signals that are being monitored. Brainwave signals coming from each of the 2 carp serving as test subject in this experiment. Here in the science operations area, the science principal investigator team members for this experiment are monitoring the data coming down as Mark Lee has been adjusting it in the Space Lab module. And this is the recording system by which the brainwave information from the test subject fish will be monitored and recorded here in the on the ground. Dr. Mamoru Mori, the test subject in this experiment, in the head restraint device designed to keep his head stationary during the experiment so that the only movement will be of his eyes, and that movement can be recorded on videotape by means of this camera. We can also see a couple of the electrodes. There are electrodes attached to various parts of his body to record the electrical signals. This is Space Lab Operations in Huntsville. We are now again receiving video from the liquid drop facility where Dr. Mamoru Mori is in the process of working with the droplet of mineral oil, and it's still attached to the injector needle of this facility. Dr. Mori manipulating the needle slightly, and the drop of mineral oil still attached to the tip. One of the loudspeakers, the circular array of holes in the background behind the drop being the openings for sound energy from one of the loudspeakers in this facility. Dr. Mori now manipulating the injector needle to try to detach the drop of mineral oil, and now has detached it. It's being suspended by acoustic energy.
Okay, Mo, it looks great.
principal investigator team members here, elated at that successful deployment of a fairly good-sized drop of liquid.
Okay, what they may want to see me do is shake the filter. When I shake it, you can see where the water is in the filter material itself. And Sam, just to let you know what I see here, yesterday when we installed the filter and the water started flowing through it, it was coming in the inlet of the filter and stopping, basically beating up on the filter material. And then when another slug of water would come in, it would be too big, and the airflow would suck it right straight through the filter without really going through the venturi or going through the filter material. During the night, it looks like the material has absorbed some of the water, so the surface tension is being broken. And now, as the water dribbles in the inlet, it goes into the filter material. And if you notice the exit down here, there's water continuously coming out the exit, whether there's water coming in or not. So it must be going through the venturi tube. If you get a big slug of water, every once in a while, coming out of chiller, you get a big slug of water. At that point, it will kind of flow straight through because it doesn't have a time to be absorbed by the filter material.
Okay, stand by. Mark.
And Sam, you can pass along. They probably saw it. There is a tremendous amount of debris inside the containers of each, or inside each module, and a lot of it sticking to the module plate, the plexiglass that you cannot see inside. And what's left is floating around. And there's also a lot of debris that has exited the chambers through the small holes and inside the overall Isaiah container, and this also obscuring some of the views, as you can see with the camcorder. It looks a little bit better in person, but not much. And the other thing is the bottom containers have a lot of condensate on the faceplate, the external plate that covers that actually is part of the locker itself. It has a lot of condensate, so the bottom is even tougher to see into than the top, and you're looking at the top, obviously.
Jan Davis at this time preparing to enter the LBNP suit or device. Even in a microgravity environment, it's not an easy fit to squeeze in the device, especially with all of the equipment attached to Jan Davis.
Okay, Mark, we have great video now.
Okay, you can see this was number 121, very healthy again. 118 was just the same. There's no obvious signs of distress. They look friskier than just about anyone we've had. The only comment I have is that they're kind of a little bit dry, and I was curious whether or not I should put a whole syringe in each one of them. I'm going to go ahead and show you the other two also.
Okay, we copy. And Mark, you can go ahead and put a spare syringe in each chamber if you want to.
Okay. Okay, this is number 23, also in great shape.
Mission Specialist Mark Lee working in the General Purpose Workstation, a glove box facility, so that the keep the frogs contained so that they don't get out in the general Space Lab module area. And he's removing the frogs one by one from the adult frog box. There are 4 of these frogs, and they're an African clawed frog
And
species.
this one right here would like to say a special hello to Kim Souza and the whole Phi gang at Ames. They're happy that they got to fly in space. And I think they're doing just great, probably much better than anybody ever expected. They're really doing a good job.
Yeah, Ken and his guys really appreciate it. They're glad they're doing so great.
This is Space Lab Operations Huntsville. Dr. Mamoru Mori, the payload specialist in the Space Lab module, continuing with some configuration of television systems so that he can provide a view of the experiment operations inside the image furnace, which he has activated with a sample.
So we now have that video.
In addition to the attention being given to actual operations going on at the moment, there will also be some work looking down the road a ways now that we have the official word of an 8th day, a 1-day extension to the mission. There will be planning going on to take advantage of that additional 24 hours and work in valuable science, get a good balance of additional science activities.
And you see no glittering particles or anything in the solution?
No, we both looked. We just didn't see anything.
And just for your information, in the ground control experiment, they are seeing a lot of crystals about 1 millimeter in size.
Mission Specialist Mark Lee also removed a glass sample from the image furnace today. This video recorded earlier of the sample that was removed from that furnace. The glass sample is laced with gold particles, and the experimenters will be looking at the movement of the gold particles and determine the flow that occurred within the sample during the heating process in the image furnace. This is Space Lab Operations Huntsville. We're now receiving live video downlink of tadpoles, part of the frog embryology experiment.
Okay, Huntsville, you ready?
That's affirmative, Mark. We're watching.
These particular tadpoles were hatched on Earth and flown in the tadpole stage at the beginning of the mission. The science team here in Huntsville watching the swimming behavior of the tadpoles in the two-part flask. Members of the science team for the frog embryology experiment monitoring the video of the tadpoles and their swimming behavior as we receive this downlink video.
It also says that the tadpoles seem to be looping in the opposite direction that they had been in the KC-135.
And Dr. Maury working with the injectors, the bubble injectors or air injectors, which are used to introduce air into the liquid chamber of this facility. Liquid chamber contains oil, silicone oil, and a pair of syringes are used, or plungers used to introduce air, form bubbles within the chamber. And the operation calls for then shaking once a large bubble has been introduced into the chamber, shaking it to break the large bubble up into a number of small bubbles, which will be studied in terms of their migration or movement.
And Space Lab Huntsville, we're live in the module. We've got the TVC-2 on. Now we've got TVC-1, and we see May at the workbench.
Okay, copy.
Yeah, May, we're looking right over your shoulder, and we have a good view of the IV pump. And May, Jerry requested if you've got time to get a 35 millimeter shot of that bag.
Oh, tell Jerry I have lots of 35 millimeter shots of this bag.
He was impressed.
Okay, so you can see it is catching the air in the sterilizing filter. Okay, next I'm going to show you the very first bag, bag 0, that I just used when I started filling up the water. And filling up the bag with just the water just to test it, to see if it was pressurized. Let me take it out of macro.
And Jan, could you rotate that filter for us, please?
Stand by. Okay, then this will be bag 0.
And that looks good, Jan.
Okay, next see bag 1, which was just with the adapter.
And STS says that's beautiful.
We're receiving some live shots from the science operations area with the fluid therapy system team, which is up and running with their experiment being front and center in space lab activities right now.
Lee now closing the heating chamber portion of the image furnace. This is the furnace that has a pair of halogen lamps to provide heat, focusing the energy of those lamps by means of a pair of mirrors, specially shaped mirrors that have the figure or form of a portion of an ellipse. And those mirrors concentrate the light and heat from the two halogen lamps into a very intense area, very intensely into a very small area, somewhat in the same manner that a magnifying glass will concentrate the sun's energy if it's focused on a piece of paper or a leaf. With a look inside the image furnace, where heating up process is underway for the experiment that Mission Specialist Mark Lee has been bringing online and will be running.
Sam, we're coming up on the time period in here where the CAP update showed looking for possibility for TV downlink. We have Kurt on the odometer up on the flight deck camera.
Here's Kurt being happy because we got on the big jets, and it's really neat after many days of microgravity to see the ship come alive and really move around. It's a pretty awesome experience. It's Kurt's first time since EP SEP, I think about 2 weeks ago. Big jets. Well, anyway, here we are, and we're starting to cycle the aerosurf, and this is something you don't see except during STS checkout, of course, because you're not able to see out there on entry, and it was pretty neat to watch, and we enjoyed it. We were going over some nice land when we took it. Zoom back here. I think you'll be able to see both wings.
That's a great shot there, Jay.
And we took some pictures of the displays and so forth, and there you can see APU 3 is fired up. So Max knows what we see on board, but it's real neat to see it, and everything worked real good. We were real happy with that APU. And here we are doing some of the STS dedicated display checkouts. Jan came up to the flight deck and took a little video during the STS checkout, and here's the 3 orbiter crew getting to work.
So we got auto and auto. Okay. Medium and medium. That's verified. Okay, HSI select. We got entry, nav, and 2. We got entry, nav, and 1. We got inhibit, analog, and brake pedals. Okay. Radar signal 1 and 2 is on. I see it. Go. Okay. Hold it for taps. 54 miles high. Airspeed's up to about 11, 12 knots. Okay, gotcha. That must be what all the pumping was, huh? How you doing, Mark? We're up to half a G. Essentially half a G. Then it trim it right up, I got 4 hours, it's trimming back out. Mach 23.2, 40 miles up. Got about 93 knots. Decelerating at 1 G. You know what that is? 3.5.
Endeavour now banking back to the left at wings angled 20 degrees. Continuing to slow down. Speed now 1,400 miles an hour, or about 2 times the speed of sound. Range to touchdown 51 nautical miles. Altitude 74,000 feet. Current speed 1,300 miles an hour. Endeavour's wings now leveling with nose angled up at about 15 degrees. Speed now 1,000 miles an hour, or about 1.3 times the speed of sound. Standing by for Endeavour to go subsonic. Altitude 55,000 feet, 30 nautical miles to touchdown on runway 33.
4 minutes to touchdown. Endeavour's approaching the heading alignment circle, an imaginary circle created by landing aids around which Endeavour will perform a 258-degree right turn as it aligns with runway 33. Endeavour now subsonic, speed 256 knots, altitude 40,000 feet, 21 miles to touchdown. Endeavour now beginning its right turn to align with runway 33.
Endeavour Houston, on energy at the 270.
Roger that.
Call indicating that Endeavour's speed is just as planned, with 270 degrees left to go to turn and align with runway 33. Current speed 267 knots, altitude 29,000 feet, 17 miles to touchdown.
Endeavour Houston, on energy at the 180.
Roger that.
Call indicating Endeavour is at the proper speed with 180 degrees left to go to turn and align with runway 33. Altitude 24,000 feet, 14 miles to touchdown. Continuing to bank to the right with wings angled 38 degrees to horizontal. Current speed 278 knots. Endeavour speed continuing right on target. 10 miles to touchdown. Altitude 16,000 feet. Speed 290 knots. Continuing to bank to the right.
Endeavour Houston, looking good on final. You'll still go for the drag chute DTO. Surface winds are calm.
Okay, copy.
Endeavour's wings leveling. Altitude 9,000 feet, 6 miles to touchdown. Speed 297 knots, 6,000 feet. $3,000 feet. Landing gear down and locked. Main gear touchdown. Drag chute deploy. Nose gear touchdown.
Roger, wheels stop. Endeavour, congratulations on a highly successful and historic mission. Stand by for post-landing deltas.